Welcome back to our channel, where the drama never sleeps and the shadows only grow longer. Today is a beautiful day to dive deep into the twisted minds of our favorite residents, peeling back the layers of deception, hidden agendas, and raw human emotion. The aftermath of a catastrophic natural disaster leaves scars that extend far beyond shattered buildings and uprooted trees. For Eva, the tornado was a physical tearing apart of her world, culminating in a desperate fight for survival that required a piece of someone else to make her whole again. Her body is currently in the grueling, agonizing process of accepting a liver transplant, a medical miracle made possible only by COT. Yet, while Eva's physical wounds slowly knit themselves back together, the emotional lacerations within her family dynamic are bleeding more profusely than ever. Leslie, a mother whose entire universe nearly collapsed under the weight of her daughter's mortality, is now navigating a suffocating labyrinth of trauma, gratitude, and a deeply unsettling loss of control. The sheer terror of sitting in sterile hospital waiting rooms, entirely powerless as her child hovered on the precipice of death, has fundamentally fractured Leslie's psyche. She is a woman who defines herself by her ability to manage, protect, and oversee her daughter's existence. To have that power stripped away, to owe her daughter's very breath to another woman, has ignited a complex, simmering storm of inadequacy and quiet resentment within her soul. Now, Leslie is attempting to reclaim her territory through the guise of maternal devotion. She has presented Eva with a deeply touching, highly practical gift, a calculated gesture designed to seamlessly insert herself back into the center of her daughter's fragile orbit. On the surface, this offering appears to be the ultimate manifestation of a mother's boundless love, a tangible anchor in a sea of post-traumatic uncertainty. However, beneath the wrapping paper and the gentle smiles lies a darker, more insidious question of intent. Is this offering truly a selfless act of care? Or is it a belated, desperate apology for past transgressions, wrapped in the suffocating velvet of guilt? More terrifyingly, is this gift merely a Trojan horse? A beautifully disguised instrument of manipulation meant to reestablish a regime of absolute control over a daughter who has just been given a second lease on life? Leslie is standing at a psychological crossroads, violently torn between the agonizing necessity of letting her child go and the overwhelming, almost predatory instinct to micromanage every single breath Eva takes from this moment forward. Eva, however, is no longer the compliant pawn in her mother's emotional chess match. The brush with death has seemingly awakened a fierce, unyielding demand for autonomy within her battered frame. Alongside Isaiah, who has firmly positioned himself as an emotional fortress against external pressures, Eva has successfully orchestrated a stunning rejection of her mother's ultimate plan. They have firmly, unequivocally convinced Leslie not to move into Eva's home during this critical convalescence period. This decision has sent shockwaves of silent fury and profound rejection through Leslie's veins. For Eva, this refusal is a desperate, necessary boundary. It is born not out of a lack of love, but out of a visceral terror that allowing her mother to cross the threshold would mean surrendering her hard-won independence. Eva is acutely aware that Leslie's brand of caretaking often morphs into a toxic, inescapable web of emotional surveillance. She refuses to trade the physical prison of a hospital bed for the psychological confinement of her mother's overbearing presence. Leslie, meanwhile, is left standing on the outside looking in, her heart burning with the agonizing sting of betrayal, wondering how she became an exile in the very life she brought into this world. Miles away from the sterile scent of the hospital, another kind of storm is brewing within the meticulously constructed empire of Joey. It is often said that this is Joey's world, and everyone else is merely permitted to exist within its borders, subject to his whims and his ironclad rules. The tornado that recently ripped through their lives was a chaotic anomaly, a force of nature that Joey could neither predict nor control. Yet, he and Vanessa emerged from the wreckage entirely intact, their physical bodies unbruised and their mental fortitude seemingly reinforced by the shared trauma. But the true danger in Joey's universe never comes from the sky. It comes from the unpredictable, shifting loyalties of the people who surround him. The current source of his escalating paranoia is Deanna. In a sudden, jarring shift of demeanor, Deanna has adopted an aura of cloying sweetness, projecting an image of total acceptance and serene compliance that sets every single one of Joey's internal alarms flaring. Joey is a man who understands leverage, manipulation, and the dark underbelly of human motivation. He knows that in their cutthroat environment, sudden kindness is never a sudden miracle. It is always a calculated strategy. Deanna's sweet facade is a psychological weapon, a meticulously crafted mask designed to lower defenses and obscure a much more dangerous agenda. Joey's mind is a relentless engine of suspicion, dissecting her every smile, her every agreeable nod, searching frantically for the hidden dagger. He is infuriated by this new dynamic, his anger stemming from the sheer unpredictability of her actions. Why is she suddenly so amenable? What trap is she setting while he is distracted by the illusion of peace? This internal conflict is slowly eroding Joey's legendary composure, turning his usual cold calculation into a feverish, obsessive paranoia. Compounding Joey's unraveling state of mind is the sudden disruption of his domestic equilibrium. Vanessa has approached him with news that has profoundly unsettled his foundation. Whether this revelation pertains to the intricate web of their personal lives or the dangerous machinations of their professional endeavors, its mere existence is enough to send a cold spike of dread through Joey's chest. For a man whose entire existence is predicated on absolute foresight and unyielding authority, being caught off guard by the woman closest to him is an intolerable vulnerability. The news acts as a catalyst, amplifying his existing anxieties regarding Deanna and threatening to shatter the delicate illusion of control he has fought so ruthlessly to maintain. The tension between Joey and Vanessa is now palpable. Heavy entity in the room, a silent battleground where trust is constantly weighed against the primal instinct for self-preservation. Simultaneously, the collateral damage of Joey's ruthless ambitions is manifesting in the tortured soul of Randy. Tasked with a new, highly sensitive assignment, Randy is drowning in a suffocating ocean of insecurity and profound moral dread. He is a man caught between the crushing hammer of Joey's expectations and the unyielding anvil of his own deteriorating conscience. The task before him is not merely difficult. It is a fundamental violation of the ethical boundaries he has desperately tried to cling to. Randy is paralyzed by a dual terror: the absolute certainty of Joey's catastrophic wrath should he fail, and the horrifying realization of the monster he must become in order to succeed. His internal struggle is a violent, agonizing war of attrition. Is his hesitation born from a simple fear of incompetence, or is it the final, desperate scream of a soul refusing to cross a line from which there is no return? The pressure is breaking him down, leaving him a sweating, sleepless wreck of a man terrified of the shadows and even more terrified of the man pulling the strings. In stark contrast to the shadowy dealings of Joey's empire, a different kind of tragedy is unfolding under the blinding, unforgiving light of misguided romance. The community is currently reeling from a revelation that has left a bitter taste of disbelief and profound discomfort in the mouths of everyone involved. Tomas, driven by an inexplicable and arguably delusional sense of urgency, has decided that he wants to propose to Cod. The sheer absurdity of this timing, coming so closely on the heels of a traumatic natural disaster and Cod's life-altering medical sacrifice, has sent ripples of shock and dismay through their social circle. The collective reaction is not one of joyous celebration, but a bewildered horror and frantic, whispered interventions. Andre was the first to vocalize the overwhelming confusion, openly admitting his complete shock at the depth of a relationship he viewed as entirely casual. His reaction underscores the profound disconnect between Tomas's internal fantasy and the stark reality perceived by everyone else. Chelsea, operating with a delicate but firm sense of diplomacy, attempted to gently navigate Tomas away from this disastrous precipice, offering tactful warnings that fell on willfully deaf ears. The lack of support is universal, a silent consensus that this proposal is a catastrophic mistake masquerading as a grand romantic gesture. When Tomas sought a semblance of blessing from Ted, the interaction was drenched in a toxic, simmering resentment. Ted's face was a canvas of barely concealed disgust and profound unhappiness. His declaration that he would not stand in Tomas's way was not an endorsement, but a cold, calculated washing of his hands, a refusal to be collateral damage in the inevitable explosion. When Ted relayed this horrifying development to Nicole, the shared sentiment was one of suffocating dread. Nicole's unhappiness mirrors the collective anxiety of a community forced to watch a slow-motion train wreck. Why is everyone so vehemently opposed to this union? It is not merely a question of bad timing, though the timing is undeniably atrocious. It is a fundamental, desperate desire to protect Cot from a man who seems to be using an engagement ring as a psychological tourniquet. Tomas's motivations are a tangled, dark web of trauma and desperate clinging. Is this grand gesture truly an act of profound, enduring love, or is it the frantic grasping of a man terrified of being left behind in the wake of a disaster? He is attempting to anchor himself to Cot, demanding a lifelong commitment from a woman whose body and mind are still actively recovering from the trauma of literally giving away a piece of her vital organs to save another. The ring burning a hole in Tomas's pocket is not a symbol of a bright, shared future. It is a heavy, metallic shackle, the physical manifestation of a profound, tragic misunderstanding of Cot's current emotional reality. As Tomas finally leads Cot away, the atmosphere is thick with an agonizing, breathless tension. The onlookers are left stunned, paralyzed by the sheer audacity of his delusion. The impending question hangs in the air like an executioner's blade. What will Cot say when faced with this suffocating demand for forever, right when she is struggling just to survive today? This impending moment is a crucible, a point of no return that threatens to irrevocably shatter the fragile dynamics of their entire world, transforming a misguided act of love into a permanent, devastating emotional scar.